This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we are going to update and upgrade our Giada Font of Hope Angel Tribal EDH deck. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Up and Up series. Today we are updating and upgrading Giada Font of Hope for all you Angel Tribal lovers out there. But before we do so, let me alarm you to the fact that in the description of this video, if you would happen to go skulking around it, you will find links to this build's deck tech, the up to the second deck list, and Giada's video primer series. We have 4 cards, 3 cards. 3 cards going in, that means 3 cards are coming out, and we're going to have some swapping of angels. So sit back, relax, and let MTG Burgeoning let you know what's up with this Giada deck. The first card going in, it's not an angel, but it is a card that will help out the overall theme of our deck, which is getting our big, beautiful, expensive angels onto the battlefield and making sure that they stay there. That card is... Whoops, that's a mistake. I thought it was a different card. So let's put... okay. I had them slightly out of order. All right. So with that intro in mind, everything I said still holds up, and we'll get to Saphira later. That card that I was building up is Rebuff the Wicked, and that is an instant for 1 white mana, and we counter target spell that targets a permanent we control. Our angels are beautiful. Our angels are expensive. We invest a lot into them, and we want to make sure that we can keep them on the battlefield and not in the graveyard. So with that in mind, we have a nice instant spell here that will stop one of our opponents from spot removing one of our lovely angels. Rebuff the Wicked is going in as a form of protection, and since our protection is so important in this build, we can justify and reconcile slightly weakening one of our overall parts or components of this deck, and here we're choosing to take out one of our removal spells. For a little bit more protection and Rebuff the Wicked, the removal spell we choose to come out is Doomscar. This is destroy all creatures for 3 and 2 white mana, or we can foretell it by paying 1 and 2 white mana during our turn, and then we pay... I'm sorry, I did that the backwards way. We can pay 2 generic mana during our turn to foretell this by exiling it, and then at a turn later in the game, we can pay 1 and 2 white mana to cast it for its foretell... Oh, jeez. Let's try this one more time. The foretell cost is 1 and 2 white mana, which we cast this after we pay the 2 generic mana to foretell it, which means we exile the card face down, and when we may cast it for its foretell cost at another turn during the game. So with this spell coming out, we're slightly weakening our overall suite of removal spells by getting rid of this, and we're increasing and augmenting our protection by putting in Rebuff the Wicked. We have a good number of removal spells, and this is one of the spells that actually could end up hurting us. By casting Doomscar out of necessity, most likely because of one or more opponent sides of the battlefield looking a little more intimidating than our own, we end up losing our own angels. So as the deck continues to evolve, we keep an eye on cards that could potentially hurt us, and we replace them with cards that can help us. All right, Rebuff the Wicked in, Doomscar out. Card number 2, well, you already saw what it was, so let's talk about it. Saphira Sky's Blade. Here we have a 7/7 legendary angel for 4 and 3 white mana. Although we may pay 1 white mana and tap 4 untapped creatures we control with flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost. It flies and it has lifelink, and it gives other creatures we control that have flying, it gives them indestructible. I don't know how often we want to tap down 4 of our angels in order to cast Saphira for 1 white mana. Our angels are on the battlefield for their ability to go into combat and for their ability to protect us from other opponents' creatures. Now, granted, we do have many angels with vigilance that can be sent into combat by not tapping, but then do we really want to tap them down just to put Saphira out there? We have a lot of ways to get our angels into play without paying their actual mana values, so I don't see us in the future at any time tapping down those 4 creatures outside of maybe having some token creatures that we can utilize but we're just going to have to wait and see. Here with Saphira, we're providing all of our angels with indestructible outside of her herself. So that's another form of protection. Remember, our angels are expensive. They take some resources to get out there. Even with Giada and her ability to add that white mana, sometimes we cheat them into play, but we're still investing resources to do that too. We want to protect them at all costs, and Saphira can do that by giving our angels indestructible. That is, of course, if they're all flying, and I'm pretty sure that they do. So with Saphira's team ability going into the 99, it pains me to take out this next card, because this card, it's an absolute nightmare. It's a powerhouse. I grew up having to fear this card. I grew up specifically having to think about, whenever I were to sit down and build a deck, how am I going to deal with this card? It was such an absolute terror back in the day. It might be, in a vacuum, outside of any kind of angel tribal synergies, it may be the most powerful single angel that's ever been created. Akroma, the old school original Akroma Angel of Wrath. Here we have a 6/6 for 5 and 3 white. It has flying, first strike, trample, haste, protection from black, protection from green, and protection from black, protection from red, and it has vigilance. This was such a nightmare. This is one of the most powerful creatures. I can't even tell you the sheer terror this card presented when it got into play, and it was so easy to cheat into play back then, and it's easy to cheat into play now. The problem is, when we are building an angel deck and we are trying to have angel synergies with, a small sub-theme of lifelink and a small sub-theme of +1/+1 counters interwoven into the 99, it's becoming more and more difficult to reconcile keeping angels that don't fit into those themes. With Saphira, and actually at a reduced mana cost on a bigger body, Saphira helps out the team, provides a layer of indestructibility. Akroma is an angel upon herself. She's an island. She doesn't help out the team. She doesn't help out with +1/+1 counters. She doesn't help out with gaining life. She's just there to be the immensely powerful and terror-inducing threat that she is. And as hard as it is to take Akroma out, she has to yield to an angel that can do more for the overall team. At least that's how it is for my build. This is not me saying to you in your own Giada build, you have to take out Akroma. You may sculpt your build differently, where you want angels to be islands among themselves so they don't have to depend on the team mentality, and that's absolutely fine. But here, we've constructed this build to take a team approach, and as good as Akroma is, Akroma doesn't help the team. So unfortunately, at this time, Akroma is out. Saphira is in. Now you know your boy Burge. You know he can't go without having an Akroma in the 99 of this deck. It just can't happen. She's too much a part of his identity, too much a part of growing up. Akroma, in some way, shape, or form, has to be in the 99 of this build. It just can't be the OG version. But that doesn't mean that it can't be a newer iteration. Card number 3 and the last card going into the 99 of this build in this video, it is Akroma, Vision of Ixidor. Now, this is the Akroma that's going to help out the team. We have a 6/6 with flying, first strike, vigilance, and trample for 5 and 2 white mana. At the beginning of each combat until end of turn. Note that this isn't just our combat. This is our opponent's combat as well. So at the beginning of every combat, each other creature we control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, +1/+1 if it has first strike, and so on for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner. So what this version of Akroma is doing, it's doing so much more than the original version of Akroma because it's helping out the team. Note that all of these different keyword abilities, So many of them are prevalent across all of our angels. They all fly, to the best of my memory. You know, so many of them are going to have first, or they're going to have first strike. They're going to have vigilance, protection. There's trample all over the place. A Chroma Vision of Ixidor is going to be a mind-boggling, immensely powerful addition to this type of build. With this version of a Chroma on the battlefield, it's going to do so much more damage than the original version did. And even though the original version is yielding to Saphara, this version of a Chroma is replacing a different card. But this is just me trying to show you how one Chroma is so much more valuable to the team of angels, or should I say our chorus of angels, than the OG version. With that in mind, the Vision of Ixidor is in, and it is replacing Sanctuary Warden. Now, a lot of what we said earlier about a Chroma is applicable here to Sanctuary Warden. We have a 5/5 with flying for 4 and 2 white mana. When it comes into play, it does so with a shield counter on it. I'm sorry, with 2 shield counters on it. We put 2 shield counters on it when it comes into play. And whenever this enters the battlefield or attacks, we may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker we control. And then if we do, we draw a card and create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So although we do have a small +1/+1 counter theme woven into this build, especially because considering we got Giada down here that puts +1/+1 counters onto creatures, it's just not impactful enough. We can only do that once. We can only do that card draw one time when Sanctuary Warden either comes into play or attacks, and we're not hurting for card draw in this mono white build. May seem like it in mono white, but that is not the case anymore. Here, a Chroma is going to be so much more valuable to the overall build than Sanctuary Warden, and that's the bottom line. Of course, you'll let me know in the comment section below exactly how you think this deck works out. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.